ridiculed for liking these bands. Said,
Well, speaking of touring and ticketing, I have to thank one of our Twitter followers for cluing me into this one. So thanks at AeroDude73. A second show has been added at Boston's Fenway Park for the Stadium Tour. That is the gigantic tour that will include Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Poison, and Joan Jett, touring stadium-sized venues, stadium and ballpark-sized venues later this year. That is set for August 26th. So 2 consecutive dates now, the 25th and the 26th, at Fenway Park, the same venue, the first second-night show set for this tour now.
wow, that is amazing. That is truly amazing. A multi-night stadium stop on that tour. That has to be exceeding anyone's expectations in terms of draw. Truly, truly amazing, especially when you consider, and Joe Elliott talked about this with me a couple weeks ago and in the press conference for this tour. Look, if you are a fan and grew up with 80s hard rock music, right? And you weathered the storm of the 90s where you were lambasted for liking that stuff and made fun of and ridiculed for it, man, is this a sweet, sweet revenge for you and I and everyone else that were mocked and ridiculed for liking these bands. You have to remember where these bands were at 20 years ago. I mean, it's been a 20-year rebuild, but where they were at that time, how marginalized they were, how little of them were played on radio, how many people cared, reduced to playing clubs, couldn't get arrested. Put 3 of them together, send them out in the summer of 2020, multi-night at stadiums, unbelievable.
Wait. 4, don't forget Joan.
Yeah, but Joan, and I'm not forgetting Joan, but Joan is by her own doing at this point, sort of the forgotten entity in this, because she didn't do the press conference and has yet to do an interview or anything about this tour. So she is unfortunately easily forgotten because she's kind of like, she hasn't really owned this in any way. And I would love to talk to her about all this. And again, she's going on 4th build, and on weekdays, I mean, that's going to be brutal because she's probably going to be starting at 5:00. And I'm not discounting her or what she brings to it in any way. It's certainly a legend, but she's a little off the radar just in the fact that she's really not out there owning it and promoting an association with it.
Which is why smartly, as we've seen, Bret Michaels and all have been selling this as a, quote, traveling festival, trying to convince people, no, show up early, be there for the entirety of it, because every band, every song you're going to hear is a smash and you're going to love it.
Right, that's a nice idea, but for the person who has a job and works till 5:00, they can't get to a stadium when the band goes on at 5:00. So you can't do it. You can't take off from work. So that's why if you're screwed if you want to see all 4 bands on weekdays and you have a regular gig. I'm assuming she'll have a start time of around 5. I can't, seeing the length of everyone's sets. I mean, I'm sure Poison's going to do an hour, maybe a little shy of an hour, and I'm sure that probably Motley and Def Leppard will have equal set time at somewhere around 1:15. So you're not going to get super long sets from everyone, but just with changeovers and what have you, I can't see her starting earlier than later rather than 5:00. But for people who are going on a Saturday or Sunday, you'll be a winner there assuming you have a regular job. Anything else, Ed?
No, let's take a break and then get to the phones.
All right, let's do it. We got a lot to talk about today. And by the way, speaking of owning it, real quick on that tour, yeah, Brett's out there everywhere. Joe Elliott's everywhere doing interviews. Nikki Sixx got active last night on Twitter doing a Q&A with people and talking about the tour. And people were asking him, will this continue beyond this? Will this go out? Will Motley continue beyond this? Will you go and do other countries? Will there be more music, this and that? And all Nikki responded really for the most part to those questions was, we haven't determined any of that yet. I think for them, it's important they just kind of get the vibe and see how they are together again and see how this feels after they get through this and then assess where they want to go. It's probably what they're thinking, and basically kind of what Nikki said when people were asking about stuff beyond this for Motley Crue, if you follow him on social media last night. All right, break. We'll come back. We'll have to do a quick turnaround to another break, but we will